Today on Hampton Roads Business Weekly, we shine the spotlight on nonprofits, plus the importance of mentorships.
And dive headfirst into the world of product development.
Get ready, Hampton Roads Business Weekly starts right now.
Hello and welcome to Hampton Roads Business Weekly, a look at the businesses and entrepreneurs making a difference in Hampton Roads. I'm Zach Miller.
And I'm Cheryl Tan. We begin today with mentorships. Running a business can be tough, especially on your own, which is why having another business owner to turn to can be an amazing resource. Successful entrepreneurs always talk about the power of mentorship and how mentors have helped them grow their companies. So we want to talk with two business owners about their relationship and about their businesses. Jerry Profit and Hillary Boyster-Agusi. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thank you. So the two of you have known each other for a few years,
Yes.
but in recent years have started this mentor-mentee relationship. How did that come about, and when was it that you decided that that would help both of you?
Well, we've actually met back in 2009. So we've known each other for a long time, actually. And we started our mentor-mentee relationship, I guess, back in a couple years ago when Hillary decided to break out as an entrepreneur. My opinion is any female or any woman out there who wants to do anything, but let alone start a business. I mean, I'm there to help. And when she called me and said, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing, what do you think? I was, her biggest cheerleader. And I said, let me know how I can help, what do you need, what questions can I answer? And she came over to my office and that sort of set us out on her path. And 2 years later, she's doing an amazing job,
Was it hard, Hillary, to make that first outreach? Maybe you talked with other people and you said, okay, I'm thinking about starting a business.
Right.
Was that hard to do?
It wasn't hard to do with Jerry because, we have a personal friendship also that made it even more easy, I think, to talk to. I think it's a struggle for a lot of companies to find someone they can kind of marry up and have that relationship with. But for me, I was tickled that the stars kind of aligned for an easy-made mentorship that I respect and honor and am glad to have today.
How has it helped you? How has this relationship helped you?
For me, it's been extremely helpful to have a lifeline that I could text at night and say, who do I need to call to get workers' comp for new employees in Hawaii, for example?
Which has happened, it sounds like.
Yeah, because
there's things that happen that you just need someone that has kind of been through that, and though her company is more IT and different scope, but who do you advise I build a banking relationship with? Those things, have been helpful that Jerry's held my hand and helped me with.
Right, and it's not always about, the thing that is hard for other big companies is sometimes companies don't want to help you because they think about what's in it for me. When Hillary has called me and said, hey, I've got this opportunity with this contract, there's nothing in it for us. Sometimes it's just, she has an opportunity to get these new employees because she's a hub zone. There's nothing in it for Intellectex, but I want to see her succeed. So I've introduced her to someone that can help her with financing, being creative, because she's a brand new startup. She can't go to the bank and get a line of credit. Mm-hmm. So we've had to help her find creative ways to be able to, grow her company, so she can get to the next step. And it's interesting because when I was growing my company, I didn't have a Jerry, to ask.
Try on air.
But it's great because Hillary has 70 employees and she's 2 years old, where, I might have been at 35 employees and I've had to grow a little bit slower. Of course, the economy was different and things, but I don't have any ill will towards Hillary. I'm so proud of her. I'm so happy for her. Of course, she's a female and girl power.
Veterans.
Yes, both veterans, and we pay it forward, Another woman had called me just recently and needed help writing some bids for a food service industry. And I immediately called Hillary and I said, how can we help her? you know,
And I helped her.
and we helped her because, you know, she was another hardworking, very devoted catering person that needed help with getting into the government space. So, you know, we both dedicated some time to help her get started.
The
So,
theory being that help companies, all companies, and everybody
yes.
succeeds.
Yeah, absolutely. If they're hardworking and they want to make it, we're here to help them.
Wonderful. Hillary, Jerry, thank you so very much.
Yep. Thank you.
Coming up, we start a new series on nonprofit businesses. But first,
So you have that aha moment, that problem, that challenge that you want to solve, but how do you solve it? Well, we're going to find out how with Erica McManus of Mad Skills next on Hampton Roads Business Weekly. We are here with Erica McManus of Mad Skills. Erica, what's going on?
Not much. I am excited to be here today.
We're thrilled
I know.
to have you. So tell me a little bit about the journey of Mad Skills. You've been doing it for just over a year. How
Yep.
did you come about the idea?
It's been about 14 months from the first conversation to launching our site was about a 4-month development phase. And then the past year we've been working to develop the concept, get the word out. And really where it started, I'm an active duty military spouse and I've moved 9 times in the past 15 years. So with any type of traditional career path, the struggle is like just insane. It's a really, really difficult lifestyle to maintain any type of normal career. So I ended up consulting for some startups out in California by default. That's an opportunity that was given to me at that time, and I took the opportunity and I started to create little teams of spouses for companies who are looking to take products to market or just kind of some branding opportunities. And one client said to me one day, "Military spouses are a force to be reckoned with and more should know about you." And I had like that light bulb moment. And I thought, at the end of this contract, I'm going to start my own company.
So the real challenge is because of the world of active duty military, you guys travel a lot.
Yep.
And it's hard for the spouses of those active to find careers because they're constantly moving. The businesses around them are a little scared to hire them.
Yep.
And then so you guys pair them with other jobs to be able to fix that. Is it only in the creative industries?
Yeah, no, so what we actually do is we kind of have 2 pathways. We developed what we call direct hire, so that's completely on our website. And a potential client, which is small business, entrepreneur, can come to the site, get access, and post a job. The unique thing about them posting a job is that all of the talent that will be applying are military spouses. So we've built up a military spouse talent community. The second is what's kind of evolved over the past year as we worked with clients and seen the needs is we're now kind of in the legal compliance structure to become a virtual staffing agency. And so what we're doing is we're taking those clients, seeing the work that they need done, finding the spouses in our community that can match that talent, and then being that bridge. So we're actually giving the remote team tools for both parties to be successful, where a lot of companies, remote work sounds great, they've never done it, they don't know how to do it, they don't know how to work with a military spouse who moves every 2 to 3 years. So it's a really unique opportunity to bring a service to a client and also serve the military spouse community.
Why should a business hire these spouses to be reckoned with?
Yeah, so that's an interesting conversation. The spouse community, there's a lot of stereotypes that we fight against, and I'm sure we could launch into stereotype conversation at any point.
Start a meme everywhere, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
yes. There's some nasty memes out there. But the truth be told, the spouse community is no different. We're just a subset of really the diversity and the inclusion and the professionalism and the education from the rest of the world. And that community is really sitting untapped because yes, people are afraid to hire somebody because they move every 2 to 3 years. And I use air quotes because the trending population of the workforce is people are moving every, I think 4 years was the latest, average. So the old conversation of, well, you're going to move in 2 years, you can't be much of a benefit. If corporations would just take the time to understand the depth of contribution that can happen in a 2-year period from anybody, but also spouses that kind of bring often a unique soft skill set and adaptability and community building, I think they would just be blown away.
How do you guys make money in that?
Yeah, so we have the 2 models I mentioned, the 2 pathways. The direct hire is through our website, so it's direct access subscription, so you would pay the entry fee to get into the site and then post a job and hire the spouses. And then our virtual staffing works very much like a brick and mortar traditional staffing company would. We have an hourly rate that we charge so that the spouse is being paid hourly, and we are very passionate about the spouses being paid at an industry level and not below just because they're a desperate spouse looking for a job. That's something that we fight against. These people are at a level of professionalism that they should be able to walk in and get paid what their cohorts in the civilian world are being
I can
paid.
see the passion in you. What have been some of the biggest challenges in the last year or so?
Biggest challenges, a lot of the stereotypes. We like to ask, we did a little customer development tour a year ago, went out to California and met with some pretty big companies, and our first question out of the door was, what do you know about military spouses? And the panicked looks that we would get told us everything we needed to know, and that was really kind of some of the passion and the drive behind what we do. People who are so not connected to the military spouse community really do fall into those stereotypes of assuming, they just are at home or they're just supporting their spouse, when there's this very diverse ecosystem happening. So that's been a challenge, but almost kind of a fun one, because you get to prove people wrong pretty quickly once they see the talent coming in and the work being done and the ability to manage remotely. Like, that's how our marriages and our friendships and our families thrive in the military community. We have to know how to work remotely and virtually. And so being able to bring that into a business concept has really been something rewarding to see people like, oh, okay, I get it.
Nothing like taking a challenge and solving that problem.
Yep.
Erica, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Jack.
Absolutely.
Yep.
How can your nonprofit benefit from relationships and strategic partnerships? That's what we're talking about today with Tom Randall, the Executive Director of Tidewater Wooden Boat Workshop. That's coming up next. We are talking today about what it takes to become a successful social entrepreneur with Tom Randall, the Executive Director of Tidewater Wooden Boat Workshop. Tom, thanks so much for talking with us today.
Thank you for having me, Cheryl.
We have to start with your story, which is so fascinating, and how it has nothing to do with wooden boats.
Correct.
How did you get started?
Well, I retired from the Marine Corps in 2008, and when I retired, the guys I work with gave me a gift certificate to attend the Wooden Boat School in Brooklyn, Maine. I'd been a woodworker all my life. I had interest in boats, and I went there in 2011, and it was a life-changing experience. I loved building wooden boats, came home, started building one in my garage immediately. I went back the following summer, and I took another course, and then I started hearing about these youth boat building programs. At that time, there were probably over 60 of those across the country. I came back here to the Norfolk area thinking, there's got to be one of those here that I can volunteer at with my new learned skills. Came back here, and there weren't any. So after a couple of years, I still had this interest, and I ran into another gentleman who was kind of sort of doing boat building with kids in the area, not a formal program. And he and I teamed up, and we started Tidewater Wooden Boat Workshop. We incorporated our own nonprofit in 2014. We got our nonprofit status shortly thereafter. I was working as a defense contractor, quit my job because I knew I needed to do this full time, and I wanted to help kids. So, and what we do is we build boats with kids ages 12 through 18, wooden boats, 12 feet, 16 feet is the biggest we've built so far. And we teach them math, science, and life skills as we do that. Plus, the real thing is they get to take the boats that they built with their hands out on the river, on the Elizabeth River, and we teach them how to row, and in the future we're going to be doing sailing with them also.
How cool is that? And the results? What has it been like to see those kids out on the water building something and then having it bloom?
We talk about the life skills that they get out of this, and one of the biggest things we see is that the gain in confidence. You take a 13-year-old young lady, and I say young lady because over half of our participants, a little more than half, are females.
Wow.
But they, the gain in confidence when you put them in front of a bandsaw that's taller than they are, in a potentially dangerous tool, which we teach them how to properly use, but the gain in confidence, they go from shying away from that tool to, by the end of the program, they're raising their hands and fighting over who's going to cut out the next piece of wood on the bandsaw. So the gain in confidence, the self-esteem that they get from building something with their own hands. My favorite words are, I did this. We had a young lady, 11-year-old, she just got done sewing the leather on an oar, protects the wood from rowing, from the oar lock. And her mom came to pick her up, and she as soon as her mom walked in the door, she runs in the back, grabs the oar that she'd been working on, and she runs up to her mom and she says, "Mom, look, I did this." Oh. Those are my 3 favorite words.
I love it. I love it.
So we can see, it's very palpable that the change in some of these kids in terms of their communication skills, their self-confidence, their ability to problem solve. math, the critical thinking piece. So we think we're making a difference.
So back when you started, defense contractor, former military, you said, okay, I'm going to start this nonprofit. And since you quit your job, you needed to, at some point, make money from it.
Yes.
How did you make that transition? And how have you been able to start to pay yourself?
Okay. Well, initially, I think like a lot of small nonprofits, we started out small and we're growing, but we funded it out of the back pocket national bank of Tom and my partner Joe Filipowski. Most of the tools in the shop we've donated to the shop. They were our own personal tools. But then there are a lot of great foundations here in the Tidewater area, and we've applied for grants. Hampton Roads Community Foundation, Tidewater Children's Foundation, Agena Foundation, just to name a few, as well as individual donations. And then it's just getting the word out. I mean, I've made the circuits of as many of the Kiwanis and Rotary clubs that I can, some of the boating clubs, the yacht clubs, and just getting the word out about who we are and what we're doing and the difference we're trying to make in the disadvantaged kids in the area.
Tom, Randall, thanks for sharing your story with us.
Thanks.
And congratulations on the
Thank you.
growth of your nonprofit.
Thank you.
Thinking about getting a product developed? What steps do you do? Next on Hampton Roads Business Weekly. Welcome back to Hampton Roads Business Weekly. We're here with Sarah Zimmerman of Sumitomo and Regent alum. Thanks for being with us today.
You're welcome.
So we got these fancy things that are huge to product development for you guys. Tell me a little bit about what product development is and why being able to hold something is important to the sale of it.
Yeah, so after the marketing study is done and we can justify that we can invest into a product, we begin the product development side of it. And one thing that has helped us over the years, I've been doing this a long time, and in the past you would have a drawing and you would show the customer the drawing and that's all they could see. And now when we're in the development stage of a product, we can do a 3D printing of it and take it to our customers and get feedback. So you're not spending that expensive money on molding that you used to have to do in the past. And so 3D modeling is very important because it allows us to get the voice of the customer and get into features and benefits that the customer wants. And the 3D printing now allows you to do it at a lot less cost than you used to.
So really your product developing with the customer alongside instead of before where you get a molding that's $20,000 to get something out, you realize it's not the right thing, and then you just print this out. And so what are some of the things that a customer is going to be telling you throughout the whole process?
Yeah, so it depends on the market. So when we're developing a product, in our case, we develop for different industries. And so depending on the industry that we take it to, we get different feedback. So part of our products are used in the food and beverage industry. And in the food and beverage industry, they're very concerned about safety. So when they're looking at the product, they don't want curves and things in the product because once it's in the plant, if it has curves or niches or cracks in it, things like that, the food can get in there. And so when they're washing it down and they don't remove the food, it can grow bacteria. So for a food plant, that's the kind of things that they're looking for and that are important is cleanability, how the surface of the product is. When you go into a steel mill, they don't really care about the surface of the product. So the things that they're looking for is reliability. It's a very tough application and they're looking for long life and liability.
3D printers, to me, are kind of like the new dishwashers. They can probably be in every house. They're a lot cheaper than they used to be.
Yes.
How has this been so important to the growth of your product development?
The speed to market is really what it does. So something that would take you years to develop and push out, you're able to bring that down to a quicker product development to the market. So speed to market is the biggest thing, and cost.
What are some of the biggest challenges, concerns that continue to come up with any kind of getting a product to market?
So in the design stage, you have features that you want, and then when you go to design the product, you may not be getting the quality that you want or the expectations. And then you have to make a judgment call. What the level of performance that you want out of the gearbox. So in our case, we're producing a industrial product, and putting something in there might make it run hot. So that might be good for the gears, but it might run the temperature hot. So we have to make judgment calls all the time about the features that we're asked for, what we can do, and the payback.
With that being said, with a 3D printer, usually they're printing plastic. How do you make sure that it's not it'll do one thing one way, and then when you get it to market, it does it different?
Yeah, so they actually print metal now.
Okay.
The printers are a little bit more expensive from that standpoint, and they can.
So you'll get the exact basically grade that you're
Yeah.
going to have, and you don't have to have
And
that
then
shipped.
sometimes what we've done recently, you can do a wax mold, which is not a full mold. It's a different type of process, and you can design the outside of the housing in a wax mold.
But really the key is getting something that they can touch, so they can look at it,
Yep.
get in there and not. Awesome.
And then after that's done, the key becomes in the test lab. So for us, we once the product is built, we test it for life performance test, not only in our offices, in our test lab, but then we also ask key customers to test it at their site as well. So before we launch a product fully to market, it's tested in 2 different ways for us.
Very cool. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much for your time.
You're welcome.
And with that, we wrap up another edition of Hampton Roads Business Weekly.
Make sure you like us on Facebook and Twitter, and head over to hrbusinessweekly.com to get more information and watch previous shows.
For Hampton Roads Business Weekly, I'm Zach Miller.
And I'm Cheryl Tan. We'll see you next week.
Hampton Roads Business Weekly, sponsored by Regent University and produced by 13 News Now.